I first noticed it on the third night after I moved into the old house, when the floorboard outside my bedroom sighed the way tired lungs do. I lay still, counting the seconds between breaths, telling myself it was only wood settling, only the past shifting its weight. The house was cheap because it leaned toward the river and because people said it remembered things. I needed cheap more than I feared memory. That night, as sleep softened me, I felt it, the sense of being watched. Not the sharp panic of danger, but something steady, patient, like a lamplight left on for someone who hasn't come home yet. I didn't open my eyes. I told myself it was imagination, the residue of grief that made even silence feel crowded. By the fifth night, the watching had a rhythm. I would turn off the lamp, tuck my hands beneath my cheek, and wait. The air would change, almost warmer, and then there would be the quiet presence, unmoving, as if someone had taken a chair and decided to stay until morning. I never heard breathing. I never smelled anything unfamiliar. I only felt, kept. I should have been afraid. Every sensible part of me said to pack up, to call someone, to sleep with the light on and a chair wedged under the knob. Instead, something unknotted in my chest. For months, since the accident, I had slept in fragments, waking to the echo of metal and rain. In this house, with the watcher, I slept through the night. On the seventh morning I woke with a crick in my neck and a strange peace. Sunlight threaded the curtains. On the nightstand, where I had left a glass of water, there was now a folded napkin beneath it, keeping the wood dry. That I stared at it, heart thrumming, and then laughed at myself. Old houses creak. Old houses sweat. Old houses have drafts that play tricks. Still, I tested it. I left my book on the floor. In the morning, it rested on the chair, a bookmark tucked at the page I'd fallen asleep on. I left a window cracked against the rain. In the morning, it was latched, a towel rolled at the sill. Whoever watched me sleep was careful. Whoever it was, they did not want to be seen. I thought of my mother, who used to sit at the edge of my bed when nightmares shook me awake. She would smooth my hair and count my breaths until I matched her. She had died the year before, her hands still warm in mine as the machines fell silent. In the weeks after, I'd felt her everywhere, the way you feel a limb that's gone. Maybe this was that. Maybe grief had learned a new trick. I stopped pretending I didn't know. One night, with the lamp still on, I spoke into the room. My voice trembled, but it held. "You don't have to hide," I said. "I won't scream." The air didn't move. The presence didn't withdraw. If anything, it settled deeper, like a cat curling closer. I turned off the lamp and slept, and dreamed of a river that ran backward, carrying all the broken things home. Days passed. I learned the watcher's habits. If I forgot to eat, a bowl would appear in the fridge with cut fruit, the colors bright and clean. If I came home soaked, a sweater would be draped over the radiator. Always things that said, "You are seen, and you are safe." I started leaving notes. "Thank you," on the counter. "I appreciate you," on the mirror. "I don't know how you do this, but it helps," taped to the door. The notes disappeared, and once, in their place, there was a single word written in careful block letters: "Welcome." I told my sister. She raised an eyebrow and suggested carbon monoxide detectors and therapy. We installed the detectors. We laughed. I didn't tell her that the watching had followed a pattern I recognized, the same patience my father had when he sat up nights waiting for my fever to break. My father had died when I was 10. And I had learned early how absence could press its face against your life. It was the dog that changed everything. He came with the house, the neighbor said, a stray who had decided to stay. He was old, his muzzle white, his eyes cloudy with years. He slept at the foot of my bed the first night I let him in, his back warm against my ankles. When the presence arrived, the dog lifted his head, tail thumping once, then settled again. In the morning, I found a photograph on the kitchen table. Black and white, curled at the edges. A young man sat on the steps of this house, a dog at his feet, both of them looking straight into the camera. The man's eyes were kind. The dog's ears were the same shape as my dog's now, folded just so. On the back of the photograph, in the same careful block letters, were the words, "He watched me sleep every night." My hands shook. I sat down, the dog leaning into my knee. I thought of the presence, the watching that felt like a promise kept. I thought of the house, leaning toward the river, remembering. That night, I didn't wait. I set an extra chair by the bed. I placed the photograph on the nightstand. "You can sit," I said. "You don't have to stand." The presence came as it always did, gentle as a blanket. And then, for the first time, there was weight on the chair. The floorboard sighed, not in complaint, but in relief. "I'm sorry," I whispered, not sure for what. For moving into his house. For sleeping in his bed. For being alive when so many weren't. The watching felt like forgiveness. Sleep came easily. In my dream, the young man and the dog walked along the river, throwing sticks, laughing at nothing. The river ran forward this time, carrying light that I and the weeks that followed. I learned his name from a deed tucked in a drawer and from a newspaper clipping pressed between pages of a book. He had been a night watchman at the mill, a widower, known for leaving lights on for people who worked late. When the mill closed, he stayed. When he died, quietly, in his chair, the house waited. I learned, too, that kindness can linger the way pain does, and that sometimes it learns to watch, not to haunt but to help. The presence never spoke. It didn't need to. It kept doing the small things that make a life possible. When my sister came to visit, the house behaved itself. No moved objects. No notes. I slept poorly those nights, waking often, the absence loud. After she left, the watching returned, and I slept through till dawn, the dog snoring, the river whispering. I started to give back. I fixed the loose railing on the steps. I painted the peeling trim. I planted herbs by the window. I took the dog to the vet and learned his name had been the same as the man's, passed down like a blessing. One evening, I brought home a neighbor who needed a place to stay for a week. She slept in the spare room. In the morning, she said she hadn't slept so well in years. It felt like someone was keeping an eye on things, she said, smiling, embarrassed. I smiled back. This house is good at that. Time smoothed the edges of my grief. The nightmares loosened their grip. I found myself laughing at the grocery store, singing in the shower. The watching continued, but it changed. Some nights, it felt like a nod from the doorway, a check-in. Other nights, it was only the dog's steady breathing and the memory of being held. On the anniversary of my mother's death, I set an extra place at the table. I spoke her name aloud. I spoke my father's. I spoke the name from the deed. I thanked them all. The house felt full, but not crowded. That night, I woke before dawn. The chair was empty. The presence was there, but lighter, like someone standing in the hallway, coat on, ready to go. Panic fluttered, sharp and sudden. "Don't," I whispered. "Please." The watching didn't leave. It eased. It shifted, not away from me but into me, like a lesson finally learned. I understood then that kindness isn't meant to bind. It teaches you how to stand, and then it steps back. In the morning, the photograph was gone. In its place was the folded napkin, the towel, the quiet order of care. The dog stretched and wagged his tail. That night, I slept alone, truly alone, and it was enough.